wanting to seek knowledge, and specifically in Egypt, because this is where I've basically been for the last 7 years per se. So Egypt is a wonderful place to seek knowledge, and of the best things that there is about Egypt in particular is that things are very cheap. And so if you have money coming over from overseas, and you're able to make that go a long way in Egypt. And also of the best things in Egypt is that there are a ton of teachers and also marakis, or like the centers for learning Arabic. And of course, with every student of knowledge, anyone who wants to learn anything in the deen, you first have to learn Arabic. Of course, you can learn some of the basics of your deen, what you're supposed to believe, how you're supposed to act in your own language, but eventually you're gonna hit a wall, and unless you learned Arabic, you will not go any further than that. And just a note, before someone wants to go and study, then if they are a student of knowledge and they want to seek knowledge, then they also need to make sure that they are sincere with themselves and they're using whatever they have at their ability and their disposal currently to the best of their ability. And so this is of the advice that I was given before going, was try to go over the Medina books or one of the language primer courses, such as the Medina books or Beni Yadayk. Try to go over this online with something that's available before you go, and it'll help you out a ton once you're there. And of course, once you get there, you can start right away from the very beginning. But if you don't know the very basics, then it's going to be a little harder for you. But if you do know a little bit, and you've also been sincere with yourself, and you've been studying by yourself before going there, then you will already have a basis of what would I say, like good habits that you're building off of, as opposed to someone who doesn't study whatsoever, and they think that going over there is just going to make them a person who automatically studies. It's not like that. So it's important that someone, before they go, they did the best with what they have here currently, and then they go over there. A lot of people, when they first go and they start seeking knowledge, they won't know necessarily what they're supposed to do or how they're supposed to go about it. And the first thing, of course, is you have to know the priorities of what you're seeking. There are certain things that are obligatory for every individual to know for himself. And these are such as the fiqh, that makes sure that his ibadat are proper, the aqidah, that makes sure he's not falling into anything like bid'ah that's improper in his aqidah, and also the way that he interacts with the people around him. All of this he has to learn regardless of whether you learn Arabic or not. This is a priority that always has to be there. But when you're overseas, the next thing that you would have to learn as a student of knowledge is Arabic, and you'll get started most of the time. Most people, they'll get started learning a certain curriculum, and this normally you would learn this if you want like a setting with other people, with classes that are actual class set up with other students, and you'll have a test at the end of every single quarter or like every single unit. Then you would go to one of these language centers that are out there. There's lots of different language centers out there, depending on how old they are and what kind of rating they have from the people, and how well known they are will depend on like the rate. So such as something like Fajr Language Institute. It's the most expensive out there, and it's been out there for the longest time, and it has it's pretty good. It's relatively good, and people know what they're getting. But of course, there'll be other new language institutes, maybe they're half the price or a quarter of the price. And this is because they're new, but they will also give a lot of other things as well. So that's also something to keep in mind if you were to go there, to look and see what's available, see what your budget is, and then go with that. But whatever you do, what's very important as well is that you finish what you start. If you don't finish anything, you're going to find yourself after like 2 or 3 years, you didn't go anywhere. And this is even if you don't like what you started, and even if there is something better out there, don't jump around from one place to another. And this is advice I was given, and I'm very happy I was given this advice, because I saw people right next to me constantly giving me their advice. And if I were to take everybody's advice, I wouldn't have gone anywhere. I would have ran around in a circle without going anywhere. All of the courses are relatively good. Yes, some of them will have things that none of the other ones have. No problem. Just take it and fill in the blanks, or whatever it's missing with a private teacher, and in that way. If someone is wanting to go further, though, of course, once someone learns Arabic to a point where they can understand, then they start making sure that they learn Arabic in Arabic, and they expose themselves to as much Arabic as they can. And this can be done by by getting to know some of the locals. Even the Ammiya is not super far removed from Arabic, and you can still speak Arabic to someone that speaks Ammiya, and you'll still benefit from your trying to speak to them. And so, but you do need to try to work on speaking, because this will help you get close to the language. And so once the Arabic is pretty well, then you can start learning books of other. Of course, if you only learn Arabic and you're just in this bubble, and also you should take advantage of the ability to learn of Quran while you're there, and put these two together, because learning tajweed is a part of Arabic. Tajweed is how you pronounce Arabic. So learning these two together is very important. And then also anything that you learn in Arabic, you take this back to the Quran, and you're going to benefit from the Quran that you're reciting. You're not just reciting sounds, but then you'll be thinking about, okay, what's the i'rab of this? Because I just learned something about mubtada and khabar. So now I'm always going to be looking for a mubtada and khabar in the Quran when I go back to it. This is of the best things, and then that will solidify all the rest of whatever you're learning in Arabic. You bring it back to the Quran and apply it. And especially if you're memorizing, because when you're memorizing, you're repeating the same thing over and over. So you should be thinking about the meaning of it, and you should be thinking about whatever other ulum that you've taken, and you're putting it into application. And that is of the best things that someone can do. And make sure that you're consistent with whatever you're doing, and make sure you have a goal of where you're trying to go. And especially with memorization, of the things I wish I would have done, was I wish I wouldn't have taken a break in memorization. So I went a period where I didn't feel like I understood what I was memorizing, so I stopped my memorization. I wish I wouldn't have stopped it. I wish I would have kept going, but people learn from that, because memorization is a muscle that you have to keep using. If you don't keep using it, you're going to lose some of it, and you're not going to strengthen that ability, and you have to build upon it. And so these are the things that are very important. Of course, once the basic of Arabic and Quran is down, then you can start finding different shuyukh that are around there. And if you know some of the students, like myself, and if anyone who does go out there or something, you get to know the students, get to know the shuyukh that are out there, and try to figure out who is a specialist in their field. And because you don't just want to take any ilm from anybody, but you want to figure out what's the ilm that this person spends the most time in and gives his attention to, and try to get the ilm from this person. And because there's a lot of people that will say, I can teach this. Oh, I can teach this. And when it comes down to it, they're basically using you as a dummy to learn on. And so this will happen from some people. So it's good to try to figure out who have they taught, and also are they well known, or try to figure out something that they published, if they do publish something, and try to get that from somebody, so that you know that you're not gonna be taking ilm from somebody who's not mastered it, or they're making major mistakes in it. And so there's always, when it comes to Arabic, there are some really strong shuyukh over there that can teach Arabic, and that can teach high levels of it. And these are very important if you can find them and stay with them all the way through. Like be consistent with them and stay with them all the way through the levels of nahu, and this is great. When you stick with a particular sheikh for a period of time, whether it's in fiqh, aqidah, or any of the other ones, you will get much more benefit than jumping from one to another, because they'll know where you're at, and they'll be able to build off of that. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, inshallah. Yeah. All right, so this is the advice, and he asked me to give the journey. The journey that I did, when I went over there, I barely knew anybody, and I got started over there and basically met someone at the airport that I didn't necessarily know whatsoever, and they took me in. And then once I got into, I was like in a village. I basically asked around until I found someone who found me a place in Cairo. I got over to Cairo, and still barely knowing anybody. I know Sheikh Abdullah Shiri, and so I met him, and then he gave me a little bit of advice. He said, go find a markaz and go. And so I ran around, found a markaz. I went to Markaz Fajr for about 7 months, and this was in 2019. So I went there like 5 months. I think it was 5 months, and I did a fast program for one of the levels, and then COVID hit. And once COVID hit, everything pretty much shut down. And so from that time, there's another benefit to living in Egypt that I didn't realize. Everything's cheap, and you got a lot of time. And from that, even though everything was closed, I went through the Medina books from 1 to 3, all the way through the recorded lessons that are on YouTube in English. from the one Pakistani gentleman. I think he's Pakistani gentleman. He's a funny individual. But I went through all of this while I was stuck indoors in COVID. I think I went through it in like a month and a half, and during Ramadan. And so then once I'd finished that, and then Fajr started back up, I felt that I was at a different level. So then I was like, okay, I'm getting kind of bored with other students because I want to move forward. And they were still struggling with some of the things I'd already studied. So I got a personal teacher to finish the Bani Adek program that I had started, to finish it with him. So I finished all of Bani Adek with him. And during this process, I would take other books that were supplementary, like for Nahu, and then also for Sarf, some basic ones. And then I would, on the side, in my own language, in like English, I would learn Sirah. I would listen to things of Aqidah, Sirah, Aqidah, and learn what I could in my own language so I didn't get bored. Because sometimes if you're just plugging away at Arabic, you get bored. So I went through that, and that was about the first year or so. And then I eventually, I found someone, I got married in a village that wasn't necessarily inside of Cairo. It was outside about, it's in Sharqiyya, which is like an hour and a half away from Cairo. So I got married, and I stayed out in the village with the people there of the village during COVID. And then I got to know some of the locals and the local shuyukh, and I stayed with them, and I practiced Arabic with them, talked with them, and none of them speak English. So I was able to benefit from their ilm and take a lot from them. And so I was there for about 2 years, probably 2 years, and then I felt I was ready to go and get into Azhar. And so it's better for someone, if they're trying to get into Azhar, to learn Arabic first and to learn some basic ulum first, because once you get into Azhar, their curriculum, if you get into Kulliyah, you're going to be studying a sharh and minhaj. Like for a Shafi, you're going to be studying a high advanced text. And so if you haven't studied the original text, and this is an explanation on the text, if you haven't studied the original text all the way through once, you're just going to be trying to understand something that's over your pay grade. And then at the end of it, you're not going to benefit. And the same thing with usul. I had already studied usul outside with another sheikh that I found that was very strong in the field of fiqh, Shafi, and also usul al-fiqh, and also aqidah. His name's Sheikh Ahmed Rushdi. He's from the students of Abi Ishaq al-Huwaini, rahimahullah ta'ala. So I was studying under him all of these books, and I just about finished a lot of the major levels when I got into Kulliyah. I finally got into the Azhar, and I went to, and I was wondering about, am I going to choose Lugha, which is like Arabic, or am I going to choose Sharia, and which is fiqh. And so I was wondering about these two. And of course, both of them, they're pretty much safe for from most deviants that would happen in i'tiqad. Most of them are safe. So I was choosing between these two, and eventually I realized if I go to Lugha, they're gonna have a bunch of classes that I'm barely gonna benefit from. But if I go to Sharia, almost everything's gonna be a benefit. And so I ended up choosing Sharia, which is strong in fiqh, and I benefited from that. So I've been there for like I'm in my 4th year now, and so inshallah, I'll graduate at the end of this year from Azhar University, inshallah. And I benefited a lot from them. And also I wouldn't recommend that somebody relies on a university or a markaz, for that case, to teach them everything. They're not going to teach you everything, but they will give you a chance to grow. And also, not all of the professors are at the same level, and some of them you'll benefit from, some of them you might. But the course itself and the curriculum is definitely something that's great, and it's going to make a strong student. And also the act of getting tested on something and having to go through the test is a great way of strengthening recall, as a lot of people have talked about, like in psychologists and whatnot. They say just the act of retrieving information from the back of your brain in a test actually makes you stronger in that information. So going through Azhar has definitely been beneficial. And then towards the end, like in the last 2 years or so, then after I'd studied Minhaj and I had gone through some other books, then I realized that there's people around me that need to study as well. And they want to start from the beginning, and they haven't learned Arabic. So I started teaching them these books that I've already studied a couple levels above them. And so then I started teaching fiqh Shafi to some of the students and whatnot. Some of it's online, and some of it's in person. And also, since online has been a thing, I'm able now to teach online as well. And so I've had a lot of classes that I'll teach online and from that. And of course, if any of you are interested in classes that are going on in English, I will have classes that are going on online, inshallah, in the future. But this is kind of the scope of things. And like family life, I did get married, and I have a kid. I have a boy that's like 3.5 right now, and also a girl that's 10 months old. Alhamdulillah. Ayub in Becca. Yeah, Alhamdulillah. Yeah. You spent all your life in Egypt, mashallah. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. There's these two, yeah. Yes, and this is, yeah. Hmm. You won't find it in any official sources. You won't find it in any official sources, and that's true. Yeah, yeah, you're barakallahu fik. And yes, this is an issue in there. That's why I chose the portion of Azhar that I chose, because it's the least amount of aqidah that you can find. And so, in literally the book of aqidah that I went through in Kulliyat Sharia, the aqidah book was like, it was a little tiny little book about uluhiyat. And this was a tiny little book. It was literally a summary of the book that is like a standard book. It wasn't even the real book that we studied. We studied the summary of it. And so I just went through and I tested, and I got a C or something. And alhamdulillah, I understand the issues, and for the most part. And most of them, you'll find though, when you open a book of Ash'ari books, what you will find is you won't find, or I should say, what you won't find is Quran and Sunnah. And I'd kind of heard this before, but when I actually went through it, you don't find Quran and Sunnah. You'll spend a whole day studying something without any Quran and Sunnah. And of course, this is something that doesn't help your heart whatsoever. But if you need to pass the grade, this is kind of what I did. And I'm exposed now to understanding the basics of what they have. And then whenever I did go through anything there, I would follow it up with books of Ibn Taymiyyah. So, and this is the funniest thing about Azhar, is they act as if Athariya doesn't exist. They act as if it doesn't exist, so they don't refute it. And they're not giving any shubha that if somebody studied Ibn Taymiyyah, that you wouldn't already have the answer to. So studying At-Tadmuriyya, Al-Fatawa, Al-Hamawiyya, and then also if you wanted to go further than that, An-Nubuwat, these things, they'll basically give you answers to anything, any shubhat that come up, as well as there's also another book, At-Tis'iniyya. That one completely destroys the Ahl al-Kalam. And so after going through these books, I would just make sure I give extra attention to these issues, since I know I'm going to be exposed to some of them. And this is of the things that if someone is going to do this, then they have to be careful of that matter. Yeah. Inshallah. I lived in Zahra for a long period of time, which is a bit of a ghetto, and then I moved up in class and I went up to Tajammul Awal. Still in it's a shabi a little bit, but it's fine. It's good. Yeah, I was in Medina and Nasr for a bit. Yeah. MashaAllah. 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 Barakallahu feekum. All right. عارفهم. No. Barakallahu feekum. All right, inshallah, if there's any questions that any of the other brothers have, inshallah, I'll cut it for here. I know I went a little longer. Yeah. Allahu a'lam. Yeah, go ahead. For my family here, no, they don't have a good relationship with me. Yeah, I keep up with my mom as much as I can, but still, like, a lot of the family is spread out, and then the family that's like my mom and my whatever, I was supposed to have a meeting, and then they canceled it. They didn't want to have it. So, Allah musta'an, may Allah got them. Yeah, but I try to do my part. Yeah, Allah musta'an. All right, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khair wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.